Good evening and welcome to On Point Opinions. I'm Bobby Kinzer,
And I'm Juan Holcomb.
and we are On Point Opinions
Yes, we are.
discussing the hot topics of the day around the world, not just in your local vicinity, but in the United States of America and around the world. There's a lot going on, Juan, in this world today. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's raining outside, but it's hot in here.
I know
But
that's right. It's getting hot in here. I can take all my clothes off. So, but yeah, just there's a lot of rain
don't do
going
it. Don't
on.
do
Yeah,
it.
please, I don't want to scare the people. But yeah, there's a lot going on, Juan. But I just want to let people know about, excuse me, our show. We here the first Sunday of every month, and what we try to do is have a discussion about some of the topics that people are talking about, or even the ones that people are not aware of. We try to bring facts to you. And once again, excuse me, this is just our opinion. So do not hold this against us as some of the things that we say. We don't want to pigeonhole people, or we don't try to judge people or anything like that, but we're just
Right.
giving you our opinions on some of the things. And we just want to straighten up some of the facts because there's so much fake news out there for
Mhm.
real. And we just try to give the facts, and then we just give our opinion on the facts. Because there's a lot going on these days, and people are being misled. And just remind you, your perception is not everybody else's reality. That's one of our stalwart cases here. We just want to make sure, but we open up. So make sure you click on the like button and share on Facebook, and also uh, what is it? Subscribe on our YouTube channel and share on our YouTube channel also, because that helps us, reach more people, and that's what we plan to do. So, Juan, with that, what's the first topic of the day?
And even before I get to that, Bob, just allow me a little
Oh yeah,
time to
please.
say, Bob, that also people can go back and look at shows if they had not caught some past shows, because we've covered a lot since we started this, and so you can get caught up with what we're doing, and so I wanted to put that out there, and Bob, something you said at the beginning, a lot goes on. We're on once a month. A lot happens. I mean, we've had hurricanes, we've had floods, we've had fires, we've had um,
We had
uh,
raids,
right. I mean, it
court
was a
decisions.
it was about a 2 week uh, funeral for the Queen of England, but that's not our topic for today. But a lot has gone on, and we're kicking it off today, Bob, with the um, and I know you all say, is it Trump all the time? But Trump does manage to stay in the news. But we wanted to kick it off with the fact that since we were last on, the New York Attorney General sued Trump actually for 250 million, and for business practices and fraud and a litany of other things that he has been up to over the years, for inflating his assets to get bank loans, and lowering them to get out of paying his taxes. Uh, uh, and this time, not only did she sue Trump, the business, but his children, and I don't like to say kids, his offspring, grown adults, are also a part of this suit. And I think that makes it unique. So that's what we want to kick it off with, Bob. What did you think about that, Bob, with the Attorney General, Letitia James? For those of you who don't know, she's a beast, in my opinion. But
Yeah, well, it's a long time coming, but and just want to give clarity in case everybody don't know. She Trump would inflate his value on things when he's trying to get loans, and when he was paying taxes, he would deflate the values. For instance, he had a apartment in New York that sold for the most ever in history for an apartment in New York, a condo, and it was 10,000 square feet. He said it was 33,000 square feet and sold it for over $300 million. So he valued Mar-a-Lago at 790 something $1 million, and actually it's only worth 73 million. So he's she's coming down on him hard, and this is a civil suit, right, Warren? Right,
Yes,
not a criminal
exactly.
suit. Although she's passed it on to the courts, to the DOJ, to see about doing a criminal, but it's civil, and it's going to hit him in the pocket. And by the way, the 250 million that she's doing, that's just the minimum. There's more. It could be over like 400 something $1 million, but it just shows how much a grifter that he's been and how he's been. And I always wonder, because that's what people don't understand. In finances, you don't look at a person's income. You don't look at their, you look at their net worth. Because you can have $1 billion worth of assets, but if you got $1.5 billion of liabilities, you broke. And that's how Donald been pumping around that he's all this rich guy. But he's, the shoe is dropping one. There's so many cases against him. I mean, he's got the document things that he took, the classified documents. He's got Georgia. He's got the January 6th still coming down on him. And there's so many other claims against Donald Trump too. But yeah, I know his kids like, man, this guy wrote a book, Everything Donald Trump Touched Dies. And it seems like everybody who get involved with him, they end up going down, but he ends up, getting out scot-free.
Right. And that's always a question, Bob, is what will he be able to weasel his way, or maneuver his way out of this one? But I think it could pit parent against children, because they compelled Letitia James spent many hours taking testimony. Now Trump, he took the Fifth. For those of you, the Fifth Amendment is so that you don't incriminate yourself. You don't have to answer those questions. But in a civil case, they can use it against you to infer that it would have incriminated you to talk about.
Right. So you know how many times you took the Fifth?
What was it? Something like over 400, Bob?
400 times. Come on, Donald. Come on, man.
But I think the children, they answer questions. So, they gonna come in now. You can't change your story. So she already has stuff on them. So
and his daughter's been and Jared has been separating themselves from him. I think they said they haven't heard from him in 260 something days. They already separating themselves, but they already got him in New York because after that Trump University thing, their whole family cannot ever be involved in any nonprofits in the state of New York. I mean, that's sad, man. God dang, come on, Donald. But
I call them a crime family, and I mean that with all honor to them that they've gotten away with it for this long. But he's passed on his traits to the children. I just wonder, will they end up having to testify against them, and what will they do? I'm also curious, Bob, about the DA in New York, Alvin Bragg, who kind of gave what some people feel is somewhat of a sweetheart deal to Trump's accountant, and kind of let the other part of the case, although he says that that's still ongoing. But I heard one lawyer say he kind of has a little egg on his face because usually his comes first before hers.
Right.
And so I wonder, and I think I've asked you about that before. I wonder, will he now kind of turn and pick up his case a little bit more. I don't know. I'm not sure
But
about
Juan,
him.
have you ever seen in the history a man that has so many legal suits going on? And this is the ex-president, man. I mean, and we've had some terrible presidents in history, like Rutherford B. Hayes
Right.
and others. Like, I
Right.
mean, Andrew Jackson. I
Right.
mean, it's not like this is the first, but I've just never seen. And then how about the attorney down in Florida, the young lady who's giving him a pass with the documents?
Oh, the judge. I
The
mean,
judge.
Judge Cannon. Yes,
Yeah.
that he nominated or got gave it to her, and she's paying him back in kind. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's his MO, Bob, and I believe if he can delay this, that's part of his ongoing things. You know, he wants to see if he can get this. My opinion, again, for those of you all out there, I think he's trying to delay and push things so that he can get um, potentially get back in office, because that's where all his protections come. You know, if you're a sitting president, that's where he feels you can't do anything to him, and so I believe that's really where he ultimately, with so many things, you just said it, Bob. I mean, he has a litany of cases against him, and but he's managed to stall this out,
Do you
and
think so? So how do you think he's going to fare with all this stuff going on in New York, Georgia, Florida, the the January 6th committee? How do you what do you think the outcome? How do you see this outcome on?
excellent question. I do believe he is in some legal peril, but what bothers me or concerns me, did they wait too long? Did the DOJ wait too long? I think it really, Bob, depends these midterms and the election in 2024. You know, if it depending if those cases are still in limbo, they're still in things, and he has a chance to get back in office, I believe he can skirt some of this. But I do believe, as a layperson and looking on the surface, that he is in some legal trouble. He's in some legal peril. But time is his. That's what his thing is. How he push it off and delay. He's been a master at that for all these 70 some odd years.
But on
So
this one, he could delay all he wants. It's still going to end up with the same thing because these documents weren't his documents. So, so I guess the delay move here is to, I don't know, delay so that he can run. Is that the tactic? Because the end result is going to be, it's nowhere around this. These are not his documents. They belong
right,
to the people, archives,
right.
and a lot of that. So he is, he could delay all he want, but everything has an expiration date, Juan. And I think
Mm.
it's finally going to catch up with Donald.
You think so?
I really truly believe it's just too many things. I mean, he's Teflon Don, but come on, man. I just can't see it. I can't see him getting out of. I mean, they haven't even started the Georgia thing fully yet.
Right,
The
right.
sister down there is coming after.
But Bob, let me just backtrack quickly on this, and my sister and I had a debate on that. Adam Schiff was on a show about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and for those of you, he's a congressman and an attorney, of course, and oversees some of the first impeachment. But he made a statement that I thought was critical, and he said that he is really disappointed. I don't know if that's the word he used, about the DOJ and the timetable and what it's taken to pursue Trump. He thought they would be further along. And he used as an example Fani Willis, which is the DA in Georgia. And he said, we have a person on the phone stating, find me 11,000 votes. It's not like you have to go look it. It's there. And he said, he would have thought that they would have taken over that case from her and not leave it in a local DA's hands. And I've heard that from other lawyers. And as I explained to my sister, Adam Schiff is a very measured, even kill. You know, he's not blustery. And when he said that says something. You know, he doesn't challenge Garland or anything, but I thought that was, and it kind of goes over people's heads, but I thought that was a critical statement. I think he was worried about time. And I'd heard somebody say, it basically the two biggest cases against Trump are by two Black women lawyers, the New York Attorney General
so
and a DA in there. That's why he hates it. You know, Trump is saying it's racism. But hey, there's a new movie out, Bob, about African Queen, and
what's the lady playing it?
Right, Viola Davis. So she, that's what I consider. I consider Letitia James to be that person, that queen, man. Wow. She's going on it, but you can't hit. Schiff knows that you can't leave it to those and to just I think, you know,
a lot of people.
I just thought that was poignant because Schiff doesn't.
Well, a lot of people are questioning. I mean, they're doing all these polls now, and everybody's got a book out. It's like all this stuff is making people famous. Everybody writing the book. Even I got a book out, but
yes,
put out. But we'll talk about that later. But
yes, you do.
Shoot, they putting out a book. I'm like, why couldn't I, Juan? But Juan, so a lot of people are questioning, you know, the justice system, which as Black people, I think we've always questioned the justice system.
Right.
But more and more people, not just Black people, question the justice system, and that leads us into the next topic. Ginni Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife.
Yes.
Now, this is the Supreme Court Justice's wife saying that the election was stolen, that Biden stole the election. Now it was over 60 judges, and most of them were
Trump appointees
by Trump, and they all said there was no fraud. And this woman is the Supreme Court justice, and he hasn't, you know, recused himself from this. I think they say he's the one that sent and vote on something else. I mean, this is just crazy, man. And then Justice Roberts, you know, he was complaining, talking about, you know, people are judging the courts or something like this. And I'm like, you daggone right from the decisions that they make it, man. It's just Ginni Thomas, man. How can she sit up there, Juan, in this day and time, say she don't discuss anything, her personal things with her husband, and yet you on live television discussing it, and he's probably listening.
Right.
I mean, this is just too funny. I mean, this is like Saturday Night Live material. She thought, I don't discuss this stuff with my husband, and I believe this, the election was stolen. I'm like, wait a minute, you're discussing it right now on live television.
It is SNL on steroids, without a doubt. Come on. But Ginni Thomas, it's really, that's where you expect to see this on the Saturday Night Live skits, not in actuality. But
it's the highest court in the land, right? His wife,
right?
But Juan, what?
And John Roberts asked about the legitimacy of the court.
Yes.
You wonder why the poll numbers are low?
They said he couldn't believe he even said that. That they questioned legitimacy. Right. So Juan, so where is it? Where does this lead us, man? What alternate universe are we in? Is there anything we as people can do about it? Or do we just have to sit back and listen to this?
Well, I think our whole show today, as we go through all of these things, one thing will be for sure, and we will reiterate that, and we'll have one more show before the elections. But the elections, you're going to have to vote people out because these things are going on, and the more people get away with things, the more emboldened they feel. And so you have to do something about it. Ginni Thomas feels she has the right. Ginni Thomas feels she has the power, the right. She's been at this for a long time. You know, I said to you the other night, when the Affordable Care Act was right in the crosshairs of the courts, she was out campaigning to have it overturned. And of course, her husband voted against it. He should have recused himself in that election. She was getting paid like $400,000 a year at the organization as she campaigned to have that thing thrown, to have the Affordable Care Act to be squashed. And so I think that we are in some very
what can we do? What can we do, though?
we're going to have to vote. And I think they should expand the courts, first of all, because Clarence Thomas is not going anywhere. I've heard other thing, term limits, but I think that takes some time.
Right.
But we're going to have to expand the courts. I think that Clarence Thomas should be impeached, but of course, none of those things are going to happen. But right. I do.
Well, I think
we have to vote.
Well, part of it is like what you said. Excuse me. So sorry. One of the first initial things you got to do is call it out. Yes. Call a spade, first of all. And that's why why we have this show, because the next thing is to have a conversation about it. It's all about a conversation. Mm-hmm. Racism is all about, really starts with a conversation, because people don't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And the politics and the things that's going on, we got to have conversations about it, because a lot of people, they don't, deal with politics. They've taken civics, government out of schools, so a lot of young people don't even understand about it. So there's no conversations about it. We should have these conversations around our kitchen table, like the kitchen table conversations, like when we were growing up. But nowadays, everybody don't even eat the same. Everybody don't eat together, so they
eat on the run.
But the move is, though, Juan, nowadays parents are taking their kids to AAU, soccer games, dance, and you can have these conversations in the car.
Right.
And that's how we start, I mean, this is not the end-all answer to these things, but we must call it out when we see it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We must be able to also have a conversation with it so we can understand and be efficient voters, so we can be voting with information and not just with sound bites and fake news. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's just my take, because this is ridiculous. A Supreme Court judge's wife, and she's sitting there on national, global television talking about she doesn't share this kind of information with her husband.
And was trying to overturn an election. Still trying. She's still trying. She says she doesn't believe he's president. Come on.
60 suits with 60 different judges, and they all said it was no fraud. Right. So this is the country we live in, Juan.
That's the country we live in, Bob. But I just will say about that Supreme Court decisions that they are doing. I think that the Roe v. Wade, as we've discussed on here, really jarred the nation and may have helped to flip the outcomes potentially of the midterms and the general election in 2024. But I think it's unfortunate it had to come to that, because I believe and especially my white brothers and sisters have been paying attention when they gutted and are still looking to gut more the Voting Rights Act back in Texas versus Holder, but they should have seen that, they will overturn precedent, everything, and that should have been a warning to them. But they tend to think that, Black people complaining about voter suppression, but that should have been because they see their rights now, their voting power being eroded, and that there are all these schemes that are going on to erode it even more. And the new term of the Supreme Court starts, I believe, this week. And they have a number of cases on race, on voting, on everything, all of that. So they say it is really a crucial time.
So Juan, what do you say to a little Black kid who sees all of this and let's say they're in, middle school,
Mhm.
and they see all of this. They see all of this corruption and just lies and deceit,
Mhm.
and they look at the judicial system, the executive branch, and um,
Mhm.
and the congressional branch. What do you say to a kid, man, who say, "Why should I vote?"
Mm.
When you see all of this going on, what do you say to a kid who's just naive? Even a kid that's in the sixth grade, but I'll take middle school because
Right.
they're a little bit more cognizant.
Right. Right.
What do you say to a kid that's looking at this
Mm.
and they say to you, "Why should I vote?" When they
Mm.
cheating
Mm.
and treating, black folks vote like we are lesser than. What do you say to a kid in 2022?
Great question, Bob. And we hit on this uh, with another good friend of mine who has some young nieces and nephews that he's trying to show the right way of doing things when there are so many problems. But I think, Bob, you sort of answered your own question when you talked about civics. Your greatest power, that's what you have to tell them. Your greatest right in this country. And because as a citizen, your greatest power lies in your vote. Let's hope we can keep the right to vote. But that is your greatest power because you can complain, you can shout, you can you can have opinion, but you must show them that that is the real power is to vote. And people died for that right for you to cast your vote. And that helps control it because uh, they won't pay any attention to all the way down to your local, and you might have to even start on the local level, not national, but start on that local level. Everything you do, all the rights in your schools, all the rights you have to show them, Bob, how it affects them at even their level. And that voting, your local councilman, your local school board, there's somebody who was voted in that makes decisions on everything you do.
That's
How
just
you get off the school board from right on up. And then that way you can teach them the power of the voting and what it means for them. And then teach them their history. We talked about that today. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And that's one thing they want to keep from people and from young people. But I believe you must show them and show them at their level that is their greatest power to vote, Bob. And that is the way
I
they
think
can
that's a
really.
good answer, but I like to add to that, Juan. Voting is one tool, and it's a mighty tool. But the other one is they need to get involved. They need to get on these local and city councils. They need to get involved. They need to get into Congress. They need to get into the Senate. And because it's not about politics, that's just all like advertisement and marketing and for show and shaking hands. But it's about making policy. And if you can get in, and that's the thing, because that's why they have all these lobbying firms. What they pay these lobbying firms to get up there, the rich people, they don't get into politics. They don't get on those boards. They pay lobbying firms to get them to push their agendas, what they want to be made law. And we need to get to the position that we could get in there and make change, policy change, not politics, shaking hands and patting on the back. No, that's politics. I'm talking about policy.
Mhm.
And we need to not just vote, we need to get in there and get involved because those where the change happens. And I
Yeah.
hope our kids, because a lot of them don't even want to be because they look at the politics
Mhm.
and like the word politics, many ticks, they
Mhm.
don't want to be a part of that. It's almost like it's a show, entertainment. But
Mhm.
I want to say this out to the young people who are listening and the parents who are listening. We need to encourage you to get involved in your government, in your local government, because
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
where it all happens, man. So anyway, with that, Juan, this
And I
was,
hope they run for office, Bob. I do. We have a,
yes, we got to get
right, for sure. I
involved.
would love for these young folks to run for office. You know, I
Yes,
tried to run for, I ran for school board, and I started to run for county council. And that's what I'm encouraging and hoping that
yeah.
young
We,
people
we
will
got to
do.
get inside. You know,
We need
voting
it.
is great. We need to do
Absolutely.
that too. But we need to
Absolutely.
get involved in the
Yes.
policy making. So anyway, that's my statement on that. So Juan,
A good state.
our next topic
Mhm.
is a big one. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, put people on buses, on planes, took people not even from Florida, immigrants from in Texas, and flew them up to sanctuary cities in Martha's Vineyard, New York, and Washington, D.C., and dropped them off. Lied to the people, told them there's jobs and everything waiting for them. And how can you be so inhumane, so immoral to do something like that, man? And he's running for president. He's going to be running for president. And in Florida, I just don't understand Florida sometimes. They're saying the Latino vote is picking up under the GOP.
Oh, yes.
Like,
It's quite
and
significant.
there's some of the things that he made a law, Juan, that if you're legally protesting, and let me make sure I get this law straight. No, if you illegally protesting, a person can run you over with a car. That's not it verbatim, but basically that's what it's saying. They can hit you, run you over with a car if you protesting, and it's you out there illegally protesting. He passed a law that they could run you over with a car. This is America, man. And then the weird thing, Juan, he said he does this, dupe these immigrants, send them to these other cities to make a point, which is nothing but, once again, a political stunt. But isn't it ironic? And I'm not wishing this on nobody.
I think I know where you're going.
But isn't this ironic that all of a sudden the hurricane hits his state, and now he voted against FEMA funding for Hurricane Sandy up in New Jersey. In other states, he voted against funding for relief. And now he's asking for 100% relief for the government. Is that ironic? Is that a coincidence? Is that what they call cosmic justice?
Or karma.
I'm not wishing anything on anybody, but it sure seems pretty strange that he did that and been doing this evil stuff down there, and all of a sudden his state gets, devastated, man.
Devastated.
You know, so this dude is running for president. What do you think his chances are?
Well, Bob, let's even back up, because there are 3 GOP governors that are complicit with all of this, the busing stunts, and of course DeSantis with the thing. But Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, which
who's the third one?
Texas, Arizona.
Oh, right.
Arizona sent those. So those 3: Arizona, Texas, and Florida. One thing that made DeSantis so egregious, they weren't coming to him. He used funds, Bob. And this is just to highlight your point you made about him needing money now in the karma cosmic justice. He spent about $12 million to $18 million of funds doing this stunt, or this thing, by sending a plane that he quietly contracted out to go down to San Antonio, pick up people, tell them, misguide them. So some people said they were trafficking. He has a number of suits against him. Just FYI, there's a number of suits against DeSantis for this, and flew them from there to, as you put it, to sanctuary city, liberal cities in Martha's Vineyard with no notice. But these are It was meant to embarrass, I think, stun and to change the topic, Bob, of what, they're since Roe v. Wade. The people weren't talking about inflation. They weren't talking about Biden's poll numbers. They weren't talking as Democrats were running up scores. But this started getting in the news every day. So that's what was meant to be. And he spent that money. Now he needs that money. He needs that money. He's spending 12 and 18 million on things like this contract with these planes and this on this. And now his state is devastated. It needs endless funds. It's sad. I hate to put it that thing because you got to help people. But I think it should shine a light on DeSantis and where he is and what he thinks of other human beings. And I do think, Bob, you're right. I think it is perhaps some sort of karma. But I think some of this is going to backfire on DeSantis, and now he has also something to figure out because it hurt Chris Christie and his presidential aspirations. First, he's got to get reelected to governor. So he's brought his wife out helping that.
He'll get that.
Yeah,
them crazy boys down in Florida. He'll get that.
But Florida right now is taking a hit, and he is got to decide how he's going to do when Biden comes down there to view the destruction for the people and how.
Oh, you know what he's going to do. He's going to be kissing up.
That won't help him with.
Notice he's been separating himself from Trump. Although he used the Trump play card, he has been separating himself from Trump because he's going to be running against Trump.
Yeah, but he wants the Trump voters.
That's different.
He needs them. Not only wants them, he needs them.
That's different.
So what he's going to do, he needs them.
Yeah, so it's ironic he's separating himself from Trump, but yet he needs the votes. But how he's getting the votes, Juan, that's what I'm telling you. He's separating himself from Trump, but he's using the Trump play card.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what they don't understand, those guys like him and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, when they were trying to run against Trump for presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Only Trump can pull that stuff off. See, they think they can pull that stuff off that Trump does, and that's why it's going to backfire on DeSantis, because only Trump can do that crazy stuff. And they proved it when they tried. Look at Jeb Bush. He tried to run the Trump thing, man. They gave Jeb Bush a nervous breakdown. Jeb Bush tried to use the Trump stuff, try to talk stuff on Trump. Trump ate him alive. DeSantis is no Trump, but he's using the Trump card. But he's at the same time, and that's a dichotomy, Juan. And look what's going around the country. A lot of these Republicans that were, a couple of the races, they separated themselves from Donald Trump. They didn't use him. A couple of states asked them not even to come. So, and more people are starting to separate himself with these midterms coming up. But the ironic thing is, but yet they still want his play card, of still in the vote and running on inflation and running on crime, law enforcement. That stuff. I just don't think it's going to work. But DeSantis, he's got some problems on that he's going to have to deal with, and we're going to see how tough a boy he is. I think he's just a straight up punk. Like most of them are.
I think they got problems in Texas and Florida. I think that the guy running against Abbott has a good chance. Name is going against me, but I think he has a good chance.
Yeah.
Be Cruz.
O'Rourke. What was his name? O'Rourke. What's his name?
Yes, Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke, right?
Yeah, I think he has a good chance of. Because these guys don't do anything. They don't govern. I think governing, but they have no interest in governing.
But they bamboozle people with information, though, Juan. They give just straight up false information, and most people that I see doesn't seem like they research. They like their information quick, so they get it off of social media, And so it ends up being a sound bite. But most people, in my understanding, in my little universe, a lot of people just don't do research, man.
Mhm.
That's why I teach my daughter now critical thinking. Just don't take things for face value. Ask questions. But most people
Right.
don't ask questions. They just accept it. And a lot of these politicians, they know the game. Like Donald Trump, he knows that's one thing. He knows the marketing game. He knows
Mhm.
the consumer game.
Mhm.
He knows that you can play on people's conscience. He knows the buttons to push, and he does. But I just hope we become. Sometimes we're supposed to be known as one of the elite
Mhm.
countries,
Mhm. Mhm.
advanced countries in the world. But make me wonder when I look at some of the whole how in those, and it's mostly those middle states. I got to be honest. It's most of the states in the middle Midwest and all of that, how they fall for the okey doke.
Well,
I mean,
Bob, that's a question though I have for you, and I won't linger on this long. I know we have other topics, Bob, but quickly, how do you think it is, especially your financial thing, and all the polls that come out, Bob? It seems that they favor Democrats on health care, on all the things that matter, um, health care, abortion rights, so forth. But
student loan
yeah,
forgiveness.
they favor Republicans on the economy, and I'm wondering what because they don't do anything. They don't do anything with the economy, man. I don't get it. How all these jobs been created by Biden, all the money in their pockets, job, and yet
Rescue
they
plan.
is it the way they, the persona they put out there. But why do you think that they favor them when it comes to the economy? What is it?
Well, I think it's all about the messaging because the Republicans used to be, I mean, they used to be fiscally responsible, but I look at it the way they did a over $1.1 trillion tax break and didn't pay for it. And the deficit's over 25 trillion, and they supposed to be
Started wars,
deficit
don't pay
hawk.
for the wars.
Well, they always been for wars though, because wars have always been great for the military
Industrial complex, right?
industrial complex. So that was their old. They always were for war because that's how they made money off of the wars, like the Dick Cheney's with Halliburton and all of that,
Right,
making money off
right,
the war.
right.
That's the thing. But I mean, they used to be about rights. Your personal rights, privacy. They used to be guardians of that. They used to be guardians of the economy. But now it's like they all over the board. But what happened, Warren? The Republican Party has been hijacked. They were first hijacked by the Tea Party people, you
Mm-hmm,
know, and,
mm-hmm,
and they were hijacked and putting out all these false narratives and almost like just conspiracy theorists.
mm-hmm,
And then all of a sudden they done got hijacked by, Donald Trump, the
mm-hmm.
Trumpers. And so it's no more facts. There's no more sensical things. It's like spooky conspiracy
Right,
theories
right,
uh,
right.
things that they talk, QAnon, things
Mm-hmm,
like this now. And how can you have a law? How can you combat law when these people are just crazy? They don't care about the
mm-hmm,
law. They don't care about
mm-hmm.
democracy. How do
No, no.
you govern
Mm-hmm.
against? I was talking about there's Martians that's coming down and going to be eating people, and Democrats are eating babies. How do you legislate against stuff like that, Juan?
Right,
I
right,
mean, we're so
right,
off the rail right now
right.
that we got to give it back, and that's why, once again, not to pat me Juan on the back, that's why we're trying to have these conversations,
Yes,
Juan,
yes,
to
yes.
bring us
Go
back
ahead.
to
Mm-hmm,
civility, to bring
mm-hmm,
us back to morality, to bring
mm-hmm,
us back to truth. You know
mm-hmm,
what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
But now
Absolutely, absolutely.
they got people thinking that sour milk is good and good milk is bad. But that's nothing new
Yeah.
on because that's
Okay.
how controlling powers have
Right.
been. And that's why a lot of people are coming down on the whole Queen celebration
Mm-hmm.
because the Queen, England, had colonized countries for years and genocide and stuff like that. And they're like, how are you going to celebrate a regime that was all about colonization, imperialism? And that's why we got to call this stuff out when we see it, Juan.
Mm-hmm.
The uses uh, scooted under the carpet. They used
Mm-hmm.
to push it under the carpet. But now it's out.
Yeah.
Klansmen, they just take the hoods off. They don't care about wearing no hoods no more. They want
No.
you to see them. And
No.
I think it's great because we can see it for what it is. Because if you can't see it, it's hard to combat it. But at least we see one. And this was the person saying, I know I'm going on. I'm on a roll right now. I'm sorry. But
Well,
go ahead.
no, but that leads us into, Bob, you lead us right in to the next topic, because once again, we're going into our sports segment, but what's going on with Brett Favre? You know, the okey-doke, how people are utilizing money and funds, and so you know that
Tell her what it is about, in case everybody don't know about
right,
Brett
right,
Favre.
right, right. Well, we put this into our sports talk, but we also call it sports talk, real talk. But there's been the latest thing on is a scandal in Mississippi, and it's bigger than just Brett Favre. But Brett Favre is one of the persons involved in this fraud and scandal. And Brett Favre has been involved in a number of things since he left pro football, but he's been able to kind of, where he's a god down in Mississippi, kind of skirt around it. But let me give the people some facts, Bob. Between 2016 and 2019, the Mississippi Department of Human Services allegedly misspent at least $77 million in federal assistance for the poorest family in America's poorest state. More than $5 million, for instance, was diverted to help build a volleyball stadium at the University of Mississippi, where Brett Favre went to school and where his daughter played volleyball. I never heard of a $5 million volleyball stadium. And at least 1.1 million went to Favre himself. And at that same time, the Mississippi Department approved applications for assistance. They call it a TANF program, for only 167 families out of 1,700 applying for funds. That's a 1.4% acceptance rate, was the lowest in the country, giving poor families just $170 a month for a family of three. Now, you just think about that. And there's more involved in that, and the FBI and the Justice Department are looking into this now, keeping lid on. I know at least several people have pled guilty already, so more is coming out, but it's pitiful. Mississippi, the dark past, and all at the same time. For those of you who are not aware, Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of Mississippi, is in a water crisis and has been. And it's just an example of what we have been talking about all this whole show, money, how they use money. The Republican Party is managed. There's no black has been elected to a statewide office: governors, senators, attorney generals, and that's kept it, even though the state is the black population is rising. They make up 80% of the population in Jackson, Mississippi. They haven't had clean water for a long period of time. Drinking water, they have to use bottled water. So I just think that I hope Brett Favre gets what is coming to him. Bob, you talked about race and racial issues. In Mississippi, with such a dark history of racial strife, from Emmett Till up through today to poor water, I think it's time. These things have to come out. I know there's a lot going on in the world, and what it also at this point, Bob, and I'll leave it at this. They talk about welfare. They talk about giving people money. There's a large it's the poorest state in the nation. So there's a lot of white people poor, but the face of Black poverty and welfare is Black people. But the true, you ever heard the term welfare queen?
Oh, yes.
That's Brett Favre.
He's welfare king.
She's the welfare queen. And,
He's welfare
but that is the thing. Right. That the governor of Mississippi could say at a big event, he said, whew, I'm hot out here today. I just want to say I'm glad I'm out here with you all today. And I'm glad I'm not in Jackson, Mississippi. That's the governor of the state.
Well, Juan, this is what people don't know about Mississippi, right? This is nothing new. Okay, Mississippi for years, for every $1 in taxes they have to pay Washington in taxes, Mississippi get 8 back in different Mississippi Delta projects and stuff like that. They've been doing that for years. So
expand on that, though, Bob. Many of those southern states don't play as much as California. Just talk about
right. They get more
than they give back.
Talk about the government, but they get more government funding than anybody else. But yet they talk bad about the government, but they use government funding. But Mississippi, Juan, they not only been treating Black people bad, they've been treating white people bad, for years. And Mississippi, it's a shame what they're doing, but it's not just in Mississippi, but that they would take welfare money. Now they say Brett Favre paid the money back, but he hadn't paid all of it back because they say but they paid $1 million of it back. But I'm like, well, wait, what about the $5 million that they built the volleyball? How you gonna pay that back? But and they talking about he's charging them interest too, by the way. But that's not just Brett Favre, Juan. He needs to be pointed out. But the same thing with the PPE.
PPP.
The PPE. What is it? PPP? PPP.
Yeah.
PPP.
Right.
Sorry.
The money that came out for the
for the COVID, the whole thing for businesses.
Right.
There was a bunch of businesses. I'm talking about stars, movie stars. That we see. Tom Brady, one to be specific, got this PPP money and don't have to pay no money, don't have to pay it back and no taxes on it. You know what I mean? So I was watching the Bobby Kennedy story, and one of the things this guy said on Bobby Kennedy when he got assassinated, he said, why when people try to help the poor people, they all of a sudden want to stop them, like John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, Medgar Evers. He said, why when people try to help poor people, the least of people, they take them out? And that was a serious question. But back to the sports thing, Juan. That's one sports topic, the Brett Favre issue.
Mississippi's a problem.
But you got
tell everybody, Bob, listen to Nina Simone's Mississippi, goddamn.
Oh yeah, that
will explain Mississippi.
That's a hell of a song, Nina.
That's a hell of a song.
That's another person we need to talk about. She was very strong in civil rights, and she sacrificed. Yeah. She couldn't win mainstream. She was a consummate concert pianist, by the way.
Right.
You know that?
Right.
But she changed her whole thing up for civil rights, man. God bless Nina Simone. But
the freak out of Lizzo playing the flute.
The crystal flute.
The crystal
James
flute.
Madison. They said they didn't even know he had a flute.
Right. They don't know. But
let's stay on the sports.
Go on. Let me stay on topic. My bad.
So now, Juan, the Boston Celtics coach, I can't pronounce. I always mess up the pronunciation.
Udoka. I know. Yeah, Udoka. I know.
Udoka, brother. Make it all the way to championship. But now they suspended him a year for having an affair with someone within the company. And I'm not sure, but something strange, Juan, that he's not married. Now, he was dating very well.
Engaged.
All of a sudden, they say he's famous. Neil Long.
He's engaged.
Engaged, right. But he's not married.
Right.
He had an affair. And they're going to suspend him. And I'm like, I mean, he gets to the top. I mean, is that right? Is that due justice just because he had an affair? I'm not saying he's right. But should this man lose his job? He's suspended because he had an affair?
Full disclaimers, ladies and gentlemen. In most of these topics, Bob and Bob and I will debate and go at it over most of these things, because as usual, we have an opinion, but that's what brings us out doing this. But let me say that first of all, things are very quiet, Bob. As we discussed the other day, Udoka, there has not been a lot out about it. When they said the reasons for suspending him, and I heard the word that he was fired. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but that he's been suspended for years. I thought that was the last thing, but it's been very quiet. There's not a lot of information about it, and keeping it quiet. And I had to admit to Bob, it was we discussing the night I was watching Bill Maher's show, and he's kind of he did his monologue in kind of the opinion of Bob, like, well, what's going on here? And he looked at it because, FYI, I said to Bob, I think also he's the head coach. It potentially was a subordinate, but we really don't know anything about who the affair is with, etc. And they said that he had multiple violations. But Bill Maher talked about the fact that he let off the president of CNN is stepping down because he had a relationship with something with I guess a subordinate. I don't know I haven't done the research on it, but supposedly he's stepping down, the president of CNN now, for this. And Bill Maher's like, wait a minute, if they haven't, he said people are lonely, and he did the statistics because I think it's also maybe older guys and younger people. And he's like, wait a minute, he said that they took a poll, there's a large swath of people who are lonely and young people lonely. Why is this a problem with folks? And so I said to Bob, I was going to mention that to him, that he and Bill Maher were along the same lines with that. But I think it's the times. I think if somebody's, the age thing is, people look at it as a problem.
I know in contracts now, Juan, when these guys, not just players but coaches, when they sign contracts, there's a lot of what do they call it? Conduct clauses,
ethics, violent clauses,
clauses, good conduct clauses. So that could have been in there too. But I just can't see how a man who's not married and had an affair, even though it was somebody at the job, because I know people at my job, I know a bunch of them had an affair, they should be busted, but I'm not going to say no names. But
no, please, no.
That's the real FDIC story. But the savings loan crisis, yeah, it really was a crisis. But so I wonder, Juan. But look, we're coming up on the hour, Juan. Yes. I want to. There's one more sports thing that I want to talk about before we get your comment, your last comment. But Tua Tagovailoa, however you pronounce it.
The quarterback for the
Miami. The concussion. There's something going on with that because he had a game. He had a concussion.
Yes.
And they said he didn't have a concussion. I'm sorry, and didn't let him play the next game. And the guy violently hit him the ground, and he was on the ground for 10 minutes. Something strange about that, Juan.
Yeah, his fingers froze up. Yeah.
We got a comment from it. I never know who the eternal dark elf. And he said if they fire him, he can take another job and they will have to pay him. By suspending him, they would still control his future. Oh, good point. The eternal dark elf.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that situation.
Yeah, I hope it works out for them. But there's something more to it, I think. Just like
yeah, my friend's son bets on FanDuel and DraftKings, and they reimbursed us $1,000 because he betted on $1,000 on Tua that he's going to have 150 yards, and because he got hurt, he lost his money. But they reimbursed his money the other day. So what's up with that? Mm-hmm. So with that one, we're on the hour, man. Yeah. And we want to thank people for tuning in. But Juan, there's a closing remark you want to make, and I'll leave it to you today.
I think that, Bob, we showed that tonight there is some serious business.
No, but what I mean, I'm sorry, Juan. I know where you're going to go before you go there, but get in the closing remark about Byron Allen.
Oh, yes. We wanted. There's so many topics, but quickly, Byron Allen. For those of you who don't remember Byron Allen, actor, comedian, he kind of forged a little. You would see him out there, but he's also proven himself to now be quite a businessman, and really is a media mogul. And he owns at least 20 to 23 television stations, from the Weather Channel to all over the state. Multi-millionaire, but he has sued McDonald's. Yes, the McDonald's that you know about, for $10 billion. And it's a discrimination suit because McDonald's is not advertising on the level of with his companies on
with
the
black
level
companies.
Yes, black companies. And since he's bought those stations where they were advertising before, they've pulled their advertising dollars. And in this discrimination suit, Byron Allen points out that McDonald's makes $100 billion a year. They're the largest landowner, makes $100 billion a year, and that we make up 40% of their buying population. That's 400 million, Bob. Check my math. And yet,
no, that's not 400 million. That's 40%.
40% of 100 billion.
40% of 100 billion is 40 billion.
100 billion? It is?
40 billion.
Okay.
If they're making 100 billion and we make up 40%, that's 40 billion.
Okay. I thought it was 400 million.
No. If we 40% of 100 billion, it's 40%. 40 billion.
Mm-hmm. But they make 100 billion.
Correct.
So 40% of 100 billion a year
is 40 billion.
So they, but they, spend less than 5 million on their advertising budget. They tear it off. And so I think it shines a spotlight on McDonald's. I hope he wins this case. It's ridiculous. And
it's going to court because the judge accepted it, so it's going to court.
Exactly. So I just think that you have to continue to call these things out, Bob, as you said earlier in our broadcast. And
I want to make it a little bit more clear too, Juan. What McDonald's is doing with other black companies, they only spend $5 million on black businesses, because they would too, if they got into business with Donald, the advertising, they would get revenues from the advertising, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means they're not giving these revenues to black companies. And Byron's company, which is AMG Entertainment Group, and he has the Weather Channel, which is several stations, got commentary, and he's big. He's actually, Byron is almost close to $1 billion. When he said me, I think he's on the lines of almost $1 billion.
Yes. Oh yeah. He's
a billionaire.
He's probably a billionaire, right?
He's a billionaire,
right?
And so the whole thing is, out of that whole budget and advertising, they're not. And then there's been racist remarks made by the CEO.
Absolutely.
So there's franchises that are actually suing because of this action. So there's a lot going on with McDonald's.
Yes.
And I think I'm not going to be buying no more Big Macs. But if Byron wins, they might change the name to Big Blacks. So.
Well, but I do have friends that own franchises, so I hope that they get what's coming to them.
I'm doing a personal boycott. I'm not eating no more double cheeses.
Right.
So the suit is solved.
And that sweet tea for me. All right.
That sweet tea. Oh God, you drink that stuff, give me diabetes right from looking at it. But look, thank you everybody for staying with us. We are On Point Opinions. Once again, just want to let you know it's just our opinions on some of these things that we just want to let you know about. But stay tuned. Once a month, the first Sunday of every month, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. Well, right now it's daylight. Get ready to change the Eastern Standard Time.
Mhm.
So thank you, Across the Waters, for tuning in. And stay tuned. There's more
Stay
to come.
tuned.
And remember,
Next show is before the election, so we'll be talking about voting for sure.
yes, and remember, your perspective is not our reality.